Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review, and for the sake of this video, we're going to be discussing and continue to discuss the Star Trek The Next Generation movie series. Now, in the previous movie review, I discussed Star Trek Generations, which was the first adventure with the Next Generation cast, and this time I'm going to be discussing the second movie, the 1996 film, Star Trek First Contact, which came out like 2 years after the obviously 2 years after the previous film. And this time it is a single adventure of just the Next Generation cast. And this one is kind of like similar to what Star Trek 2 was, and that was they brought in the most famous villain from the Next Generation the television series into this one. And that was, of course, the Borg, which is the humanoid, the cyborg creation, and they're trying to take over Earth again. Or attack or invade Earth again. So what Picard does, then actually he wanted to join in the fight and help the fleet, and Starfleet says, "No, you're not going to help us." And the reason for that is, of course, anybody knows the Star Trek series, specifically the Next Generation show. In the third season, Picard was abducted by the Borg and assimilated, and became the cutest of Borg. So because of Picard's previous experience with them, they said, we don't want you there because you're going to be, taking out your revenge on them, or maybe even join them." And so at first they assigned the Enterprise to the neutral zone. Which I should mention that this is also the first adventure of the brand new Enterprise, the Enterprise E. Of course, the Enterprise D, which of course became famous in the Next Generation series, was destroyed in the previous film. So now we have a brand new Enterprise for this movie, and it was also born in the other two films as well. So you have the Enterprise E. So in the last minute, Picard decides he found out that the Borg destroyed the fleet. Pretty much kicked their ass for the most part. So Picard decides to go help the fleet out. He decides to go against orders and go to help the fleet out, and he finds out that when they got there, there's one Borg ship went into the past and changed human history, and now they took over all of Earth. And Picard and the rest of the Enterprise crew is trying to find out how the Borg was able to do it, and they found out they put it like a slipstream or a time warp, and they went back into the past, the 21st century, and stopped what was First Contact. Now, what First Contact was, when we're talking about, was Zefram Cochrane, who of course was famous in a original Star Trek series episode called Metamorphosis, when they met Zefram Cochrane, who created the warp drive. Well, in this particular plot point, the Borg goes back in time to stop Zefram Cochrane from launching his ship and activating his warp drive for the very first time, and learning the Vulcans, who was monitoring our planet, who was monitoring Earth at the time, of Zefram Cochrane's first test flight. And after that, the Vulcans made first contact with Earthlings, and were really the first extraterrestrials to make contact with Earth. So, despite all the UFO stories that I grew up watching, and unsolved mysteries and stuff, this was the first contact in the science fiction format. So that's what the Borg did. They prevented Zefram Cochrane from making his first test flight and making first contact with the Vulcans. So the Enterprise crew decides to go back in time, do the same thing that the Borg did, go back in time and actually help Zefram Cochrane out to make his first test flight. Because Zefram Cochrane in the movie was played by James Cromwell, fresh off the movie Babe, the movie with the talking pig. And there's no way in the world I'm watching that movie because it's too stupid to even watch that movie. Anyway, they also had Alfre Woodard, who was Zefram Cochrane's assistant, helping him out, and she pretty much kicked some butt in this movie. Of course, also in this film, you also have an appearance from Robert Picardo, who plays the holographic doctor in Star Trek Voyager in this film, because they put him in as a distraction to the Borg, as the Borg was invading sickbay, because when the Enterprise destroyed one Borg ship, there were actually two Borg ships. One went into the past, and one that the Enterprise destroyed. And before that Borg ship was destroyed, the Borg crew on that ship, Borg ship, being on the Enterprise and started to take over the Enterprise. And of course, the one who was the puppet master of the Borg was the Borg Queen, played by Alex Cringe, and this was the first time you ever meet the Borg Queen. The only other time you saw the Borg Queen in a Star Trek episode was in Star Trek Voyager. And she made an appearance, I think it was in a couple of episodes, but most famously in the last episode of Star Trek Voyager. Well, and when I digress, so this was really the first time you see Alex Cringe as the Borg Queen and the real actual leader of the Borg. And what she really did in this movie was trying to bring Data into the Borg and to assimilate him, which of course they couldn't really do because of his positronic network in his android brain there. But she was seducing him. You know, it was really a sexual type feeling for a Star Trek film. It's really pretty heavy duty stuff. And now, of course, when Picard comes back on the ship trying to stop the Borg Queen, Picard does stop her and destroy all the Borg that was on the Enterprise. And it was really fun to see that. And of course, the Borg Queen remembers Picard's the cuteness, and of course they had all that. She's trying to seduce Picard as well as Data, and you see Data with half his face there, because what the Borg Queen did was give Data like real skin, so you have a real feeling if you get scratched and stuff. So you have like real human feeling and all that stuff. And of course, Data says, you know, forget. Eventually, he says, "Screw the Queen, the Borg Queen." Not sexually, but giving her the shaft, and says, "Resist." You know, the famous tagline of the Borg: "Resistance is futile," and destroyed. You know, shot and killed the Queen, and destroyed whatever Borg was on the Enterprise. And there was one pretty good sequence I should mention with the Enterprise crew fighting the Borg, and that was outside on the ship. They did like a moonwalk or a spacewalk on the Enterprise, but they had magnetic boots, so they're walking on the outside of the ship, which you never see with the original movies. With the original crew, or even the original television series, because I guess it's too expensive to do. And of course, in the early days of CGI, which this was in 1996, when the movie came out, they were able to do those types of effects. It really was effective. It really was exciting to see that. And I think that's before I continue, I think that Star Trek First Contact was the best one of the whole Next Generation movies. Because most of them were not that. The last two films were not that great, and we'll get to them eventually. That was the most exciting sequence and the most dramatic sequence, in the whole film. Well, and you have the other subplot with trying to convince James Cameron to do this, and trying to tell him stuff in the future. This is where your statue was, and I went to your school. And Joy tells Cochran that I went to your school, the Zephyr Cochran School of Engineering. Which is Starfleet and all this stuff. Everybody honors you, and meanwhile, the Zephyr Cochran character was drunk, he was a slacker, and there's one pretty amusing scene where he was with Troy, or Cochran was with Troy, and got Troy drunk, and it was just pretty fun because you never really seen her drunk before. Marina Sirtis, who was like the hottest babe on the whole series, and then maybe. Denise Crosby and Gates McFadden, she was like, everybody says how hot she was, and she was pretty hot. And he gets her drunk, and he played a very good drunk scene, and she was fighting, and even though she was drunk, she was still fighting with vodka, After all, I didn't know I spent like 2 hours with this guy. I didn't even know this was the guy we were looking for. That this was actually Cochran. I didn't even know this was Cochran, and he got me drunk on tequila, and he was a really an hysterical scene. And just about every cast member in this particular Star Trek film had a scene to really shine on. Fortunately, you can't say that with the last two films, really of the Next Generation series. But this one, like I said earlier, this one's got, out of all the four movies, this one's got the most praise. And it was also directed, also kind of like the original Star Trek movie series, when Leonard Nimoy directed two films, who of course was playing the second in command of the original Enterprise, original Star Trek show, and of course the original, the first 6 Star Trek films. This time, the number one, or the second in command, Jonathan Frakes, the cast, Commander Riker, directed this movie. And I thought he did a pretty good job with it. I think it was the first movie he ever directed in his life, and I thought this was, he did a pretty damn good job in this film. Fortunately, he didn't translate to the next one. But I thought he did a good job handling everybody. And also, you also had to bring back, I should also mention, they also had to bring back Worf, or Michael Dorn's character, Worf, in this movie. Simply because at that time, after the next Star Trek Generations film, Worf's character was transferred for the Next Generation series to Deep Space Nine. Because at that time, the Next Generation series had ended by that time. And the writers of Deep Space Nine said, let's bring in Worf for Deep Space Nine, because it was like problems with the Klingons. I don't remember exactly, but it was some type of problem with the Klingons. And so Captain Sisko says, let's bring in Mr. Worf, annoying Klingon in Starfleet, so maybe he can help us out try to sell the issue. And so he was on Deep Space Worf was on the Deep Space Nine show, and he got into the fight with the Borg. He was on the ship that was stationed there at Deep Space Nine, the Defiant, and he was beamed up from the Defiant back to the Enterprise, and he helped. And for the rest of the movie, Worf helped them out for the rest of the movie, and so they had to, write him into it. I think they also did a similar thing in the next film as well. At that time, they had the Dominion War. At the time they did the next movie, it was Star Trek Insurrection, which we'll get into in another review. But actually, Riker was ragging on Worf a little bit. So, do you remember how the final phase is, Worf? Because he doesn't do that in Deep Space Nine, because he was like second in command, or technically third in command, on Deep Space Nine, which he was in the Next Generation show. He wasn't third in command. I think Data was, but anyway, they put him back in there because naturally Worf was part of the Next Generation cast, and they had to find some way to bring him back in because he was on, like I said, he was on the Deep Space Nine show by then. But this movie, it was, like I said earlier, this was definitely the best movie of the whole Next Generation television series. Definitely the best one. We're going to show you how lousy these movies were, because if you have a good villain, it would be good if you have a good villain. And they did have a good villain with the Borg. Unfortunately, it's a shame that when they did the Next Generation films, they didn't bring in Q. That is my one real complaint with the Next Generation films, is that they never brought back Q. Because again, maybe because they brought Q back so many times on the television series, it's got Q again. So they brought in the Borg instead. And unfortunately, they never brought the Borg back in the other two films, or Q for that matter. They completely ignored the Q character, and I think it would have been better if they did one, or at least the last, maybe not so much the last movie, but maybe the next one they should have brought in Q, and they never did. They never did, and it was really a shame. But if you want to see a good Star Trek movie with the Next Generation cast, pick First Contact instead, and forget the other ones because they're not so good. So that's my review of Star Trek First Contact. Please click on the video, please rate it, feel free to comment on it. Please subscribe to my channel, please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews on my YouTube channel at rowdyc.com, so WDY, and then C.com. There's a homepage from Rowdy Reviewer, Christy Moore, and please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching, and catch you all next time.